Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and I think before we get into this properly, we need to pay some respects to Ace. You know, I mean, he is deceased after all, so let's get up here and let's do a little bit of a, let's all break out our Ace shrines. I know we all have them in our house, so just break it out, get it set up a little bit, and, light some candles, and let's do this here. Oh, glorious Fire Fist Ace, I beseech you, please make this video a hole-in-one for all parties associated with it, and if we could also receive your blazing blessing as a holy man, then that would be great too. So, thanks. There's so many more hole puns, guys. I have a whole list. We can keep going down it. Okay. Alright, so here's the deal. I've talked about Ace so much, it feels like all the other videos I've made about him, as well as with, like, just, it's inherent. If you talk about Luffy, you gotta bring up Ace. If you talk about Sabo, you gotta bring up Ace. So, I know a lot about him, but I never actually sat myself down and made an entire video focused around him. I got this really sweet, hoodie that's based around Ace's outfit. It's even got like the little skulls here on the side and the Whitebeard emblem on the back. So if you actually want this, I'll put a link in the description below, the website where I bought this thing. It was like about $35, but it's pretty fleek. It even got the tattoo. I mean, isn't that awesome? So yeah, I had to wait for this to get here and some other stuff, but I think it's finally time we do this now. And I'm going to do it in the same format as the other Straw Hats, just because, Ace is a character that was really fleshed out up to the point of his death, which is at the end of Marineford. And it really served as the turning point for not just the One Piece story, because that's right around the time the time skip occurred, but also for Luffy's character, because Luffy, a lot of times when he's traveling, I mean, Luffy is not an idiot, alright? It's not like he thinks everything is just fun and games. But Luffy had this very naive sort of outlook on life, where he was going to journey and have all these crazy adventures with his friends, and I think he always believed, like, he would be able to protect everybody. Like, always. Like, that's, like, I'm gonna go on an adventure with my friends, and we're all really strong, so everything will be fine, and I'll be able to, protect them if shit goes south. And then, not only at Sabaody, when Kuma sent them all flying, did Luffy kind of feel like, think about this from his perspective. He felt like he lost all of his crew members. Not like, they didn't actually die, but, he's like, I couldn't protect them. But then he's given an opportunity to save his only, well, at the time, he thought his only brother that was still alive, because Sabo, they believed he was deceased. So it's like, alright, now I have a chance to save my brother, and he fails at that, too. Not really fails, I mean, Ace did die, but he Ace kind of sacrificed himself so Luffy wouldn't die, so it's a little bit more complicated than just, like, Luffy couldn't save Ace, but if you want to just boil it down to it, yeah, Ace did end up dying and Luffy couldn't save him, and that really messed him up. So that was a turning point for Luffy's character, as well as with the actual story, and that's where we get into the time skip here, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to the very beginning. Alright, so on one random island in the South Blue, Goldie Roger one night got it on with a girl by the name of PORTGAS D. Rouge. And, I'm not gonna go into detail there, but I'm sure that night was burning passion between the two. Yeah, so Roger, he was a ladies' man. He had a lot of different, women that he got on with throughout the years, and up to the point when he was executed, the Marines went on this mass extermination campaign, because when the world government, got their hands on Goldie Roger, executing him alone was not good enough. They were like, no. The shit that Roger did started the Great Pirate Era, got this whole idea of the Great Treasure One Piece in all of the citizens' heads. No, we gotta do something more than just execute the Pirate King Goldie Roger. We need to go the next step. We need to exterminate everybody that was related to him, even, like through blood or otherwise. Obviously, all the other members of the Roger Pirates were put on a hit list, so they can't really live in the general public now. I mean, unless you're Rayleigh. Rayleigh just kind of chills out on Sabaody, and I think even Garp even brought up, like, oh yeah, we know where he's at, but we can't take him. I mean, we could try, but we would lose a lot of members. Like that one Marine guy went up to Garp and was like, we think we saw Silver's Rayleigh at Sabaody. And like, yeah, we've gotten reports throughout the years that he's there. We know exactly where he is, but it's not going to work. But a lot of the other ones had to go into hiding. But, you know, anybody that was related to Roger, but particularly bloodline related. They were, the Marines and the world government were extremely worried that Roger would have sired a child. That's the big thing. Like, no, there could not be a son or a daughter of the Pirate King existing in the world now. Just can't happen. So they went on this massive campaign. Anywhere that Roger had been for like the last year, any woman, any brothel that he went to, he was a pirate, guys, come on, of course. And they just started taking them out. I mean, without question, just bursting in, and anybody that was vaguely even connected. It's very much like that scene in Game of Thrones after the death of King Robert, and they went into all the different brothels and just started, you know what they did? It was kind of gruesome. I don't even want to bring it up. That was a messed up scene, but good show, but messed up scene. But that's what the Marines did, basically. But then you have Rouge, and Rouge was the one woman that Roger, like, actually loved, you know, and there's a lot of cool fan art of the two of them. Like, if they would have, you know, lived a happy life, they would have gotten married and raised Ace together, and that would have been adorable. Fun fact, though, his original name was actually Goldie Ace, not PORTGAS D Ace. He got that from his mother because he didn't really like his father too much, but his original birth name was, in fact, Goldie Ace. Also, I think probably a good thing he changed that, because I don't really think that the Marines would have been fooled by it for as long as they have. They didn't really figure out the lineage of Ace up until he was about to be executed. Right before that, that's when Sengoku got out and was like, we did some research the last few weeks, and turns out you're the son of Goldie Roger. But yeah, I'm glad he changed his name. Otherwise, it probably would have caught on a lot quicker. But yeah, so Roger and Rouge were together for a time. Not sure how long they were together. After that, Roger left and eventually turned himself into the Marines. He was suffering from some type of illness at the time, and Rouge was left pregnant with Roger's child, who was Ace. Now, while this was going on, the Marines were bursting down every door and, for lack of a better word, exterminating every pregnant woman that they could see. If Roger, hey, Roger, we got reports he was on this island, you know, 8 months ago. They would go to that island, and any woman that was showing that they were like 8 months pregnant, you know, done. So PORTGAS managed to save Ace by keeping him in her womb for 20 months. That's over, for those of you that don't understand remedial biology, that is over double the traditional amount of time that a baby is inside their mother's womb. 9 months. 20 months. I don't even know how that's physically possible. I mean, I'm a guy, obviously, so I really have no parallel to that, but the best way I could possibly, you know, figure out a way to compare that is, you ever really have to take a monster deuce, so to speak? Imagine holding that in for 20 months. That's the best I got. And that's not even a good one. But she did it. Girl did it. Girl had the willpower. She was a D. And she took Roger's D, but she was also a D. So she was able to hold Ace just through sheer willpower in her womb for 20 months. As you can imagine, this did a lot of damage to her. I would also assume if this were to occur in real life, I'm sure this could not occur in real life. I'm sure this is medically impossible, but maybe for 20 months it's medically impossible. I don't know, maybe it is possible to keep a baby in your womb for maybe 10 months or 11 months. 20 seems to be overshooting it a little bit, but I'm sure that would cause damage to not just the mother, but the baby. But this is anime here, so it did a lot of damage to her, to the point where she died shortly after childbirth, after Ace was finally born. Ace seemed to be okay, didn't really suffer any medical complications there, and so she was around long enough to give Ace his name, your Goldie Ace and everything, but she passed away shortly after that. We don't really know exactly how that occurred, how Ace, you know, like, was found. Like, Garp was the one that was tasked by Roger. When Roger was sitting in Impel down, he was like, you know, he told Garp about, you know, I have a son, he's on the way, this is where he's at, some island in the South Blue, this is the mother, make sure you take care of my son, Garp. Okay, later. And then, so Garp's a nice guy, and here's the thing, Garp, it makes me wonder why he's still a Marine in a lot of respects, because he knows how messed up the government is, and he's aware of the Marines and the stuff that they do sometimes. Like, you know, Roger, King of the Pirates, okay, makes sense, he has to be executed, but then the Marines going on this mass extermination campaign for everybody that's even related vaguely to Roger. Many are innocent women that just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Garp sees that, and he's like, yeah, that's not cool. There's no reason why the child needs to be punished for the sins of the father. You know, or even the women. Like, they're not the King of the Pirates. They had nothing to do with this. Rouge had nothing to do with this. So, it makes me wonder, and Garp is a D as well. Garp and Saul were the only members of the D clan that were also in the Marines, and they both really could see how messed up the system was, but yet they stayed. Garp is still technically a vice admiral. He kind of left, but he was brought on as like, oh, you're gonna like train up the early Marines and stuff. Maybe Garp sees it as like, I don't know, maybe the lesser of two evils, like, yeah, the government and the Marines do some messed up things, but the pirates, scourge, that is objectively worse than anything the Marines or the government could do. Or maybe Garp sees it like, I'm too far into this game now, I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. Maybe he views it like that. But at any rate, Garp is a morally good person, so when Roger is pleading to him, like, hey, I have a child, and the Marines are gonna kill him. If it's just left the way it is. They're gonna find him and they're gonna kill him. So, could you please raise my son? He has nothing to do with this. He has no right to be punished for my sins that I committed. And Garp was like, alright. So, I would like to actually, honestly, I would prefer that when Ace was born and Rouge was there, I would like to think Garp was also present. You know, like, during Ace's birth. We didn't get to see it. I mean, we only got, like, one flashback panel of Rouge holding her baby, but I would like to think that Garp showed up and, you know, maybe told her, like, listen, I'm not here to do anything to you or your baby. Roger and I were not exactly friends, but acquaintances. I will protect your child. I will make sure that he's not, you know, he was raised at least in a safe location. Well, safe is kind of a subjective term here, because he brings him to live with a bunch of mountain bandits, but, you know, like, I'm gonna make sure he's not found out by the world government, so, okay. And so, Garp takes Ace and brings him over to Fuchsia, and this was before Luffy was born, keep in mind. Ace is 3 years older than Luffy, so this is before Luffy was born or anything. Takes him and kind of raises him a little bit, and then eventually hands him off to Dadan and the mountain bandits at Mount Corbo on the Goa Kingdom there, and because Dadan and Garp are old friends, and obviously Garp cannot raise a child, not just for the fact that he has other stuff to do, but also for the fact that, like, he's part of the Marines. If he's raising a child, maybe someone would figure it out. So, yeah, he leaves him in Dadan's care, kind of out in the middle of the mountains in this random backwoods place in East Blue, that's right next to the Goa Kingdom. Nobody really goes out that way, so there's no way that the world government's gonna really find out about him. Eventually, Luffy is born, and Luffy's dad was also kind of a no-show. Dragon wasn't really there during Luffy's formative years. Maybe he was when he was a little tiny baby. We still don't know so much about Luffy's birth, but after that, Garp took him in, and then raised him a little bit, kind of trained him a bit, like, you know, he tossed him into a jungle for a little bit for some survival training when Luffy was very young. Eventually, Luffy met Shanks at Fuchsia, and then to counter that, when Luffy's talking about how, I'm gonna be a great king of the pirates someday, Garp is like, the hell you are! And then grabs him and then throws him to Dadan's too. He's just like, yo, Dadan, straighten this kid out! You, and you're Ace, you're gonna take care of Luffy, right? You play nice to each other. Alright, I'm out of here. So, yeah, Garp was present during their upbringing. He showed up every now and then, but he had a lot of other stuff going on, obviously. Whenever he got, you know, a vacation or a leave from the Marines, he would go to Fuchsia. And Fuchsia is the place where he grew up, in the Goa Kingdom, so I don't think a lot of people would really find it odd that during Garp's, you know, leave, he decided to go back to his homeland, alright? No one would really suspect, like, not only is the son of Dragon there, but also the son of Goldie Roger. So, now getting into Ace, as he is at the first time we see him, that he's really, like, he can actually have a personality beyond when he was just, like, a baby, you know, crawling around. Although baby Ace is, in fact, adorable, I'll give it to you. But, moving on here, so Luffy is 7, Ace is 10 when they first meet. And, their first meeting was not really that great. Ace spit in Luffy's face, as I recall. Luffy is a very kind of, you know, cheery, happy little boy, so he's just like, hi, I'm Luffy, who are you? So, Ace growing up, though, he didn't have it as good. I mean, Luffy, granted, survival training thrown in a jungle for a week by his father and by his grandfather and everything, but Ace had it a little worse because he was taught growing up, no matter what happened, your father was Goldie Roger. Ace learned about that when he was pretty young. Garp told him. Garp could have just kept that a secret. He could have just been like, he could have lied about it. He could have lied about who Ace's father was. Like, oh, your father? Yeah, he was a traveling fisherman, and then he just left, and you'll probably never see him again. He could have lied about it, but he didn't. He's like, when Ace was pretty young, he's like, no, your father was Goldie Roger. He was king of the pirates, and he told him the whole story. Now, Ace kept this a secret, obviously, couldn't tell anybody about it, but no matter where Ace went, he always heard stories about why his father was such a horrible person. Goldie Roger, he was the one that caused this freaking mess. Pirates all over the place. And to be fair, that's an accurate statement. If it wasn't because of Roger, piracy would not be in this great era that currently exists. And yeah, I mean, we get kind of, taken away from it a little bit with the Straw Hats because the Straw Hats don't act very piratey. The Straw Hats don't go around and burning villages to the ground and stuff like Eustace Kid does. But for the most part, pirates are horrible people that do cause a lot of pain and suffering in the world, and a lot of people that probably have their family and friends killed by pirates are upset at Roger. And so Ace, while growing up, whenever he was in a pub or something and people were talking about him, they'd be like, Roger was a horrible person. And they would even go further to say, yeah, oh man, you think Roger has any kids? Oh, if they do, they deserve to die right there. See, that's the thing that's, like, Oda's trying to get across the message here, like, the sins of the father do not immediately transfer to the sins of the son. I've never really understand that concept. That's actually happened throughout human history. The children of a horrible person have that burden, like, just by default, just by their birth. They have the burden to kind of make up for what their parents did if their parents were really horrible people. Can you imagine if you were, like, the son or daughter of a serial killer? Like, you didn't do anything like that. You're not the one responsible for it, but just by society's standards, in a lot of ways, you have that burden to bear, and you have to make up for it somehow. You have to prove just by default you're a different person than your parents. So it's kind of a really intense pressure there for Ace. And he kind of turned rather cold and callous from it, where he kind of shut himself off from a lot of other people and didn't have a lot of friends. Really, the only friend he had at that point was Sabo. Sabo also had the same kind of burden. Not the exact same thing, but his family was, there were nobles, and they were raising him up to be something he didn't want to be, and he felt suffocated by this society, and he left into Grey Terminal, and that's where Ace and Sabo met, and they decided that, their backstories are kind of similar, and they just kind of hate, like, screw the adults, we're gonna do our own thing. We don't need them for anything, we don't need people to tell us what we need or can't do, we're gonna make our own destinies, we're gonna do what we need to do. So Ace and Sabo, they start saving up. They basically rob people, they steal, they do everything they can to get as much money as possible, saved away, so eventually they can buy a pirate ship, and they could just sail out into the big blue yonder, and they could just have their epic adventure, and they could do whatever they want, and they don't have to worry about like the crosses they need to bear because Ace's father happened to be king of the pirates. Eventually Luffy joined up as well. It took a little while for them to warm up to it, because it's like, Ace and Sabo were 10 years old, they're the same age, and then here comes this little runt who's like 7, and it's like your dorky little brother. I never had siblings, so I don't really know what the dynamic is like, but it's like, oh, you're my dorky little brother, get away from me. But eventually they all warm up, and they become sworn brothers by exchanging sake cups, and then they have their adventures in Grey Terminal. And for, it's not happy by any stretch of the imagination. They're living in a garbage heap, basically, and being raised by mountain bandits. But the mountain bandits aren't so bad, and at the end of the day, they have each other. They're brothers, so they get along, and everything's cool. Up until the whole thing with the Blue Jam Pirates happened, and Luffy was kidnapped, and then the whole plan that the World Nobles had to torch the Grey Terminal, to wipe out all of the refuse, and by refuse I don't just mean garbage, but also human beings that happen to be living in the garbage heap, that were kicked out of the town. And so when that all started happening, shit really started getting knocked into, like, 6th gear for the brothers, like, oh, this is going down now. So a few things here. We find out that Ace actually has Conqueror's Haki, rather young. He awakened that when being, when trying to save Luffy and being captured by the Blue Jam Pirates and everything. Ace never used Conqueror's Haki while he was an adult, so a lot of people tend to forget that. But he did in fact have it. Now, I don't know. Maybe he just, maybe he didn't even remember it. Maybe it was like a subconscious thing. He used it as a kid, but it never really came up later. I find that kind of hard to believe, though, because you mean to tell me that all the fights that Ace has been in while he was a pirate, all the confrontations he's had, he's never gotten stressed out to the point where he, like, subconsciously used conquerors the same as Luffy did. It's just kind of weird. He never used it when he was, like, fighting Blackbeard or somebody, or, hey, here's an idea. How about when you were about to be executed, using Conqueror's Haki on the scaffolding might have been a useful move there. Then again, you have to remember, Ace kind of resigned himself to his fate at that point. He kind of realized that, like, maybe, yeah, I should die because of what my father did, and he kind of, like, came to terms with it. So maybe that's why Conquerors didn't really work in that situation. Or once again, maybe he just never realized he had it, never trained with it. You know, don't tell me that he couldn't have had a master like Luffy had Rayleigh. Well, Ace had Whitebeard, so if Ace really wanted to learn about Conqueror's Haki, he just talked to Whitebeard about it, and Whitebeard would have probably told him a thing or two, you know. That's kind of interesting there. But, yeah, so this all culminates in the death of Sabo. The death of Sabo. Sabo's boat is shot down by Jalmac. They think he's dead. They don't find a body. In reality, Sabo has amnesia and was taken in by Dragon to become a revolutionary, but they don't find out about that. Ace actually, here's the sad thing, Ace never learned that Sabo was alive. That's a thing. That just never happened. He never learned about it. So, yeah, up until his death. So there's the scene where Ace and Luffy are on the bluff, you know, they're on the, like, the peak of the mountain, and they're kind of staring out over the sea, and they kind of look at each other, and Luffy's bawling his eyes out, and Ace is trying to be the tough older brother, and that's something that their dynamic is going to take over, especially after Sabo died, because Ace probably viewed himself as, like, I'm his only brother now, I'm his older brother, I'm the responsible one, I'm the one that has to look out for him now, and that's how it's got to be. So, Ace is kind of crying, too, over the death of Sabo, but he's like, this is what I have to do now, this is my job. And so, they start training like never before, the two brothers on Mount Kolbo, training like hell to try to become great pirates. By the way, we never really find out the reason why Ace wanted to be a pirate. We know reason why Luffy wanted to be was because he was inspired by Shanks, but the reason that Ace wanted to be one, the only thing I could come up with is he just really wanted to show the world that he's not his dad. You know, like, he could have become a Marine, I guess, because that's what Garp wanted him to be. You think the natural opposite of being a pirate would be a Marine to get as far away from what your dad did, but maybe Ace is like, no, I'm gonna journey out to sea, and I'm gonna be a pirate, but I'm gonna be my own pirate. I'm not gonna let, like, just because my dad was one, I'm not gonna let that deter me. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So maybe it was something like that. We never really got a direct answer to that. So, the arrangement that the two brothers came to was, at age 17, that's when they're gonna head out to sea. So when Ace is 17, he leaves Fuchsia Village, he has his own ship, and he starts his adventure. Meanwhile, Luffy is 14 years old, and he starts training even harder by himself until he becomes 17 and he leaves. So it's like Ace has a 3-year run on him. Now, in the light novels that were released this last year or so, we actually got some information regarding Ace while he was journeying throughout the seas. And just to give you a brief overview here, before he even left the East Blue, Ace had already consumed the Marineford no Mi. He found some desolate island. He got shipwrecked on with a guy named Masked Deuce, who would eventually become his first mate. We've never actually met him in the manga or the anime, but in the light novels, it's revealed that was Ace's first mate. And also the Ace can be, there's a card game motive for his crew, so the Ace could be, you know, number 1, and then Masked Deuce number 2, so that's where that is. The Marineford no Mi happened to be on the island. They both ate the fruit at the same time, but Ace had the first bite, so he's the one that got the powers. By the way, people have always talked about, like, what would have happened if you take a devil fruit and you both bite into it, like, absolutely simultaneously. I have no idea. I do not know. That's a question for Vegapunk, not me. But yeah, if you had a devil fruit and you both, like, exactly 100% at the exact same time, just, what would happen? Would both people get the power? Would it be random? Would no one get the power? No. I would probably go along the lines of nobody getting the power rather than 2 people getting the power. I don't think there's a way to cheat the devil fruit system that easily. Like, oh, if okay, well, we have the devil fruit here, the Marineford no Mi, let's get 7 people all around it at the same time. Just, 7 of us all have the power, so I think in that situation nobody would get it, and it would have to wait until there's one person eats it that would actually receive the power, but that's just me. But anyway, yeah, he gets the power of the Nomi, and then they use that power to escape the island, and they start up the Spade pirates were, started on that day, and a bunch of other pirates, joined up, the Skull dude, that's a pirate aficionado, and all those other guys, the Top Hat dude, the Old West cowboy guy, so they all start off, and there's a full list of all of Ace's crew members. I did a video about that, actually. I don't remember all of their names. There's some of them that are named after card games like Pinochle and stuff, but yeah, most of them are probably not going to be revealed. But here's the thing. When Ace joined up with Whitebeard, his crew merged with his. So I would like to see at least maybe Masked Deuce, because he's already been established in the light novels as a central figure. It'd be cool if we got to see Masked Deuce at some point in the manga. Maybe after the Whitebeard, because we know the Whitebeard pirates got separated as well, because Marco is off on Whitebeard's homeland doing his thing, and then what happened with, like, Vista and Jozu and Atmos and all the other ones, and the commanders and all the other members of the crew, and the Spade pirates, they might have all scattered around the world too, so I like to think they're maybe still hanging out somewhere, like Masked Deuce is still maybe friends with all the Spade pirates, but they're just not pirates anymore, maybe. That's something like that. At this time, they were also being chased around by a female marine by the name of Isuka, who was an ensign. She's basically Ace's Smoker. You know how Smoker is the one that's always chasing around Luffy? And yeah, there's other marines that are going after Luffy, but like Smoker was the first one that actually swore like a vendetta, like, I'm gonna get you, Straw Hat. He's the one that's like, yeah, you guys can all chase after him, but he's mine, Same thing with that, where Isuka is the woman that's like, he's mine, I'm taking him down. And she is also known as Nailing Isuka because she uses a rapier as her primary weapon. And there's some stories involving her in the light novels. I'm not going to go into everything, but there is like I don't want to say a romantic relationship between them, but there is a moment where Isuka is kind of like, she is kind of similar to Garp, where she's a marine, so she's enemies with Ace, but at the same time, he's not that bad of a guy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of relationship. There was also a point here where I think it was Vice Admiral Draw, we don't know who this guy is, also somebody just from the light novels, was the one that actually approached Ace with an invitation for the warlords. And, that was the whole thing there. Yep. But no, he gives them the invitation for the Warlords, and he's like, do you want to be a part of the Warlord system? Because you're a rising star in the Grand Line. And Ace turns it down. I also made a video about that. I made a video on what if Ace were to actually join the Warlords, what have happened there. This also brings to question that there was maybe an opening slot at this point. And this was rather early on. This was like within the first year or so of his pirating career that Ace got invited. And if you think that's kind of soon, remember that, Luffy, within the span of less than a year, racked up a 300 million berry bounty and became one of the, the supernovas, took down 2 warlords, actually, Moria and Crocodile, so that was all in the span of less than a year. Before the time skip. And then Ace kind of was also really kind of a rising star at this point, but he turned it down. He didn't become a member of the Warlords. I don't know which one he would have been replacing at that point, or if there was an open slot there. It wouldn't have been Crocodile or Doflamingo or Hancock or Moria. We know those guys have been part of it for a while. We don't know when Mihawk joined. Mihawk might have joined it relatively early. I mean, relatively early compared to the start of the storyline. We don't know. But yeah, so he turned that down, and they continued on until eventually they ran across Jinbei, right? And because Ace found out about Whitebeard. He was like, at first he was like, I'm going to take out Whitebeard. I'm going to go after Whitebeard, and I'm going to kind of take that old man out to show him what I got. He got kind of getting a little bit over his head here. Because Ace, he was strong, he had Hockey, he had his Devil Fruit, and it was a Logia, and it was a very strong Logia. So I think he just kind of got it a little too high, like the story of Icarus. Like, yeah, let's try to take down a Yonko now. Granted, it was the same thing Luffy tried, but how did it work out for Luffy when he tried to take down a Yonko the first time? I mean, he's going after Kaido right now, so we'll see where that goes, but yeah. He runs across Jinbei, and Jinbei was not part of the Whitebeard crew, but he has a debt sworn to Whitebeard for what he did to save Fishman Island. So Jinbei was kind of like, well, I might not be part of his crew, but I am indebted to the man Whitebeard, so I, won't let you find him and kill him so easily. So Jinbei and Ace begin their brawl, and I think that lasts, like, Was it like 10 days or something? Like, it was a ridiculously long time those two fought. And considering the fact also that Ace is fire and Jinbei is a fish, you'd think that the fight would maybe go a little bit, and they weren't fighting in the ocean. They were fighting on land. Granted, I think they were by the ocean, but still, I mean, that fight was incredible. I mean, it shows nothing. I think that shows more for maybe Jinbei's stamina, like dealing with constant barrages of fireballs one after another, but eventually they both collapsed. They were both on equal footing at that point. So, yeah, keep that on mind as like a general scale of Ace's power. Before he even joined the Whitebeard Pirates, he could fight Jinbei to a draw, which was pretty good there. Now, granted, like you had when the time Luffy fought against Crocodile, but Luffy figured out Crocodile's weakness. Like his inherent weakness was water. With Ace and Jinbei, it was just a straight-on brawl, right? And like I said, you'd think that maybe fire would be Jinbei's natural weakness, being a fish, but apparently it wasn't, because the fight went on for a very long time, and they resulted in a draw, so yeah. That's when the Whitebeard crew finally showed up. I guess after so many days of fighting, the word finally made it to the Whitebeard crew, like, hey, that random upstart Ace is fighting Jinbei on this random island, and the fight's been going on for days. You think if we hurry, we can make it? And Whitebeard's like, set course for Random Island. Like, yes, sir. So they go and they show up, and right after Ace passes out, that's when Whitebeard shows up and takes the Spade Pirates onto his crew, and Ace gets up, and he's obviously a little bit upset by this. He starts to try to attack Whitebeard and Marco, and they all have to kind of put him in his place, and he tries that for a while until finally Marco just kind of sits him down and is like, hey, look, your crew is here. They put up a fight. We beat the crap out of them. You know how it goes. It's not too bad being part of this crew. I know you were trying to take out, Pop's head and everything, but, let's be realistic here, man. That's not gonna happen. Like, you could seriously try every day for the next 1,000 years, and he'd tear you apart each time. Like, it's not gonna work, buddy. And by the way, he's not even using half of his power when he's... Because, like Ace would have, like... When Whitebeard was sleeping one time, Ace tried to, attack him in his sleep with a knife, and all Whitebeard did was, like, and just knocked him through a wall and went back to bed. Didn't even use, like, his devil fruit power, so it's like, yeah, there's no chance. So... just join up with us, and you get to see the world, and hey, the second commander position is open. You're pretty strong. You could be a commander. We were kind of all like you. I mean, there were probably other commanders in the Whitebeard crew that probably had the same idea as Ace. Like, let's try to take out Whitebeard. And it just never resulted. I'm sure not all of them are like that, but think of all the people that are on Whitebeard's crew. There's 16 just commanders alone, plus all the other people. You don't think any of them had a previous vendetta against Whitebeard, and then they ran across him, and Whitebeard was like, be my son. And they was like, okay, I guess so. Can't really refuse it at that point. Giant dude towering over you with an epic stash and a Bicento, like, be my son! Okay, Pops. Okay, so they join up there. And then Ace has a total 180. He no longer wants to, destroy Whitebeard, because Whitebeard is kind of the thing that Ace always wanted. A father. That's what Ace... It took him a while to realize it, but Ace finally got it. Like, this is a man that doesn't just act like my superior on a ship. This is a father figure, and he treats all of his crew members like his sons. And I'm sure Ace maybe didn't even, like, admit it, like, to everyone else, but to himself. I could imagine Ace one night, like, when he figured it out, like, going into the bathroom and just kind of crying and just being like, this is always what I wanted. Okay, I'm badass. Can't be crying, but this is awesome. So he decides, instead of trying to become king of the pirates, he has a little bit of a change of his outlook on life. Instead of becoming king of the pirates, he wants to do everything in his power to make Whitebeard the king of the pirates. So he gets the badass tattoo on his back, and he starts off, doing everything in his power to. And then this actually inevitably led to his downfall, though. This was the thing that actually resulted in his death, because what happened was Thatch, who was a member of the crew and was also somebody that Ace really looked up to. Thatch found the Yami Yami no Mi one day, and Blackbeard saw that, and Blackbeard killed Thatch in cold blood, took the Yami Yami no Mi, and fled the ship. And I think it's because Ace felt so indebted to Whitebeard that he was like, I have to be the one to go after him. Not just that, but also Blackbeard was part of his unit on the ship. So he's like, he's part of my unit. It's my responsibility. Also, I have to repay Pops. So come hell or high water, I'm gonna bring back Teach. And so he hops on his Striker, which is a badass rocket-powered boat. He has a rocket boat. It's amazing. It runs on his Devil Fruit power, technically, but it's a rocket boat. Look at the damn thing. It's called the Striker. But anyway, he hops on that thing and he goes, and Whitebeard doesn't stop him. He doesn't stop him, because Whitebeard is kind of on the same page here. He realizes that, you know, as he said it to Shanks, he's like, you can't live in this world without a code of conduct. If Teach doesn't realize it that on his own, it's my responsibility to beat it into his thick head. So, I think Whitebeard might have actually been kind of proud of Ace at that point. When Ace went out to search for him, Whitebeard's like, that's my boy, because that's the guy Whitebeard is. He's a person of, like, you know, tradition and the true pirate way. Like, just because you're a pirate doesn't mean you don't have a code of conduct. There are rules in this business, you know what I mean? So when Ace goes out to try to, you know, capture Blackbeard and bring him back, and then Shanks shows up, and Shanks is like, I need you to stop Ace. You guys don't know what you're getting into right now. Whitebeard is kind of offended by that. He's like, you're questioning the pride and the loyalty of my crew. You know, Ace is doing what he needs to do, and I won't have you backtalk that. So him and Shanks got into a little bit of a scuffle there. It didn't really result in anything, you know, major, but there was a moment where they clashed, and they're like, you know, Shanks is like, well, this era's gonna get spiraled into chaos then if you don't stop him, and Whitebeard's like, you think that scares me? And so they had a little bit of a conflict there. But yeah, at the end of the day, Shanks was right. Shanks was absolutely right. Whitebeard ends up dying, Ace ends up dying, Blackbeard ends up taking the position that he had as a Yonko, and with the darkness powers, and with the Gura Gura no Mi, and with all of that, the world has spiraled into a new era of chaos, the likes of which they have never seen before. So, yeah. No one listens to Shanks. No one listens to Shanks, man. When he was with the Gorosei, I think he said something maybe to the Gorosei too, maybe about Blackbeard. Like, he shows up at the Gorosei meeting and like, okay, guys, you need to listen to me about Blackbeard. And it's like, be gone with you. We're the world government. We don't care. We'll take out Blackbeard when the time is right. I'm like, oh, you guys are idiots. Why doesn't anyone listen to me about this? I'm freaking Shanks, man. Anyway, by the way, fun fact, just side note about Shanks, the release of the Vivre card data book came out, and it's actually implied that Shanks was in fact a Yonko way before he ran into Luffy at Fuchsia Village. So, yeah, before that happened, Shanks was already in fact a Yonko. So, yeah, it's maybe a little thing with the mistranslation, it might be, but that's what's implied. So, anyway, I just wanted to bring that up here since we were talking about Shanks at that little moment there. Right, so Ace meets up with Luffy in Alabasta. Actually, the first time we see him is when he's on Drum Island. He arrives there first on he's on Blackbeard's tail, so he's like, Blackbeard is on Drum Island, so he goes there. He misses Blackbeard, but he leaves a message there like, hey, if you see a pirate with a straw hat come by, tell him I'm gonna wait in Alabasta for like 10 days or something. And so that's actually a really cool scene when Ace first showed up on Drum Island, because just the presence of him made it a winter island. Like, the snow stopped that one day while he was there because of his fire powers. And also he was wearing this badass black, and he had a black hat at that point, from his standard orange one. So yeah, he never wore that outfit again, but he looked damn cool in it. Also, kind of a trademark of Ace are the two symbols there, the frowny face and the smiley face there. And it also might be a reference to the fact that when all members of the D clan die, they all die with a smile on their face. So, yeah, that's the same thing with Ace there. But anyway, eventually Ace and Luffy meet up in Alabasta. This is actually a very short reunion in the manga. They basically just meet up and it's like, hey, brother, how you been? And then Ace does the really cool thing. He confronts Smoker, but then after that, the ships are trying to get away, and they're being assaulted by the millions, and then Ace uses his Fire Fist to destroy all the million ships at once, and so the Straw Hats could get away from Nanohana. But then after that, Ace just leaves. Ace gives Luffy the Vivre card that he doesn't even know what a Vivre card is yet, and then he's gone. In the anime, it was kind of nice because Ace kind of stuck around for a little while. They journey into the desert a little bit to try to find Blackbeard. Eventually, they find a guy that was like, he deliberately, like, this was an anime filler, this isn't canon, but it was like a guy that wanted to lure out Ace personally, so he spread the rumor that Blackbeard was in Alabasta so Ace could find him. He also fought a giant scorpion at one point, so that was a cool episode. But eventually, while they were traveling through the desert, Ace decided, oh, well, I guess Blackbeard isn't here. It was nice seeing you, Luffy. It was nice meeting all your friends, but I gotta get going. I gotta get back to this. This is pretty important. This picks up in the cover series, Ace and the Great Blackbeard Search, where he meets a little girl, where we actually see later in the manga that was part of the island that was attacked by the Pinkbeard, and the Revolutionary Army commanders show up. That was the same island, so Ace shows up there and helps her out. It's actually kind of a running theme with Ace, because they also went to Wano, where he helps out a little girl, which was Otama at the time. So, yeah, Ace inspires a lot of little girls to rise up to the challenge of their oppressive environment, if nothing else. So, the big thing, Ace finally confronts Blackbeard on Bonaro Island, which is an island shaped like a banana. Okay. And it's like an Old West kind of town. And so he meets Blackbeard there, and it's funny because at first it's like kind of like a miscommunication where Blackbeard is just like, you know, he's not intimidated by Ace. He's just like, "Oh, Ace, how you been? It's been forever. Hey, we're heading to Water 7 to take the head of Straw Hat Luffy. Come on for the ride. Would be fun." And Blackbeard's completely, like, oblivious to this. Like, Ace is up there just like, "You know I'm here to kill you, right? You know I'm here to kill you and drag your lifeless body back in front of Pops to atone for the sin of killing one of our crewmates. You do know that, right? You know, and also, by the way, Luffy's my brother, so yeah, I'm gonna fight you now." And so that fight, one of my favorite fights in all of One Piece, easily top 10, probably top 5. We now know 2 of my favorite fights in One Piece. Usopp versus Luffy and Ace versus Blackbeard. What are the other 3? Woo! But, yeah, so their fight's awesome. Not just for the fact that we get to see more from Ace, because we get to see all of his different fire abilities, like Fire Spear, Fire Gun! They're like guns, but with fire. And then, St. Elmo's Fire, that was a good one. Probably my favorite one, though, just because of the pun. And as you can see, I'm a fan of puns. You get an ace in the hole with that. Crossfire. It's like, "Crossfire!" And he literally does this with his hands, just makes a cross, and then, like, a fire cross pops out like a sniper scope, and just, what the hell? Whoa! And lights him up. He also has Firefly, where he makes, like, a bunch of little fire pellets that are just floating in the air, and they're green, and they're just kind of, like, buzzing around the opponent, and they're kind of like those things in, did you ever watch Atlantis, The Lost Empire? Remember that movie, the Disney movie? One of my favorite Disney movies, in fact. And there was that scene with all the fireflies that light everything up. Kind of like that, where the fireflies are like buzzing around Blackbeard, and he's like, "What the hell are these things?" And the second they land on him, he's just like, "Fiery doll!" And just lights up Blackbeard. The thing with Blackbeard, the first question is, how come all of his body hair didn't get burned off? But also, Blackbeard has really weak tolerance. He has really low tolerance for pain. He's the same thing with Cracker in that respect, so pain hurts him a lot more because of his Devil Fruit ability. It just kind of absorbs all that pain. But just because he feels a lot of pain doesn't mean he has, like, shit stamina or defense. He's really tough. He's built. So after even getting lit on fire, it hurts like hell, even more so than usual. But after the fire is put out, he can get back up, and he's relatively okay, because he's a pretty tough dude. And there was even a scene where Blackbeard, like, he punches Ace and almost breaks his neck. So he's a pretty tough guy. But it was really cool to see all those fiery moves, and then it finally ends out with that big clash, where Blackbeard reveals the power of the Yami Yami no Mi. I need to really watch this episode after that. After I'm done making this video, I'm watching that episode, because now, it's been a while since I've seen it. I'm getting kind of pumped. I need to watch it again. And I'm in the middle of watching an episode of High School DxD, so I'm literally giving up Rias boobies for Ace, so you know how much this is a big deal for me, alright? Anyway, yeah, it all ends with the darkness versus the sun, where Blackbeard I don't think he actually named this technique when Blackbeard summons that giant just orb of darkness. I don't know if he had a name for that, but he summons that giant orb of darkness, and then Ace has, like, a combination attack. It's like a flame pillar, where he, like, creates just an eruption around him, and then takes that fire and turns it into an attack. So he's like, flame pillar, flame commandment, and then, like, flame emperor, where he basically makes the blazing Genki Dama. I made that joke a few episodes ago, when I did the religion in One Piece video, like, is Ace gonna go train with King Kai? But no, he basically does. He creates a giant flaming ball of just sheer sun death, and then just flings it at each other, and they have the big, BAM! And then just clashes right there on Bonaro Island, and the chapter ends, and all we get to see is Ace's hat just... Oh no. Man, that island has a huge hole in it now. And, you know, that was a really beautiful scene. I mean, it was a depressing scene, but it was a good scene on Oda's part, because Oda could have had Ace just lying, like, unconscious and, like, you know, and then Blackbeard just picks him up and drags him away. But he does the thing with the hat. And at the same time, remember this in the manga, it's, like, overlaid with the narration that's like, on that day on Banaro Island, Fire Fist Ace was captured by Blackbeard, leading to an event that would change the world as we know it, or something to that effect. I was paraphrasing there, but yeah, so after this, Ace gets turned over to the Marines. This is how Blackbeard becomes a warlord, despite not having any notoriety beforehand. Of course, we later find out that was all just a scam to enact his grand plan to get access to Impel down and get all of the level 6 prisoners on his crew. Smart plan. I don't know if Blackbeard was the one that came up with it. Might have been Lafitte, but someone came up with it. And so... Then, I mean, Luffy finds out about it because he has the Vivara card at the end of Thriller Bark. Luffy finds out about, like, oh, that's not good, it's on fire. And then Lola tells him about Vivara cards and, like, that's not good, Ace is gonna die soon. But at that point, Luffy's not that concerned about it because he's like, you know, he's my brother, but... Yeah, he's out having his own adventures, guys, and that's his business, and I was under a lot of pressure a lot of times. You know, I was almost to the point where I died, and I came out okay, so, you know, Ace will probably be fine. But then Sabaody happens, and the Straw Hats get separated, and I think Luffy now has a new outlook on this, whereas before, Luffy was kind of like, you know, holding the Vivara card, like... you know, it's Ace's life, he'll be fine. But then after all of his friends disappeared and he found out about the grave situation from Granny Neon on Amazon Lily, like, oh no, he's an Impel down, he's gonna be taken to Marineford, he's gonna be executed. You know, and even though Luffy kind of, like, he's told that Whitebeard will probably protect him and save him, Luffy's like, I couldn't save my crew. I need to save my brother. I need to kind of maybe, like, make it so I can, like, save somebody. I need to do it. Even though he'll be upset with me, I'm going to have a new outlook on this. I've changed my mind. I'm going to save Ace. And so that starts my favorite arc in all of One Piece, the Impel Down arc. If you want to know why it's my favorite, I just like the whole Dante's Inferno references. They brought back Buggy. They brought back Galdino, Mr. One, Crocodile. Ivankov is one of my favorite characters in One Piece. Take that whatever you will, but... Ivankov certainly is different. Not a lot of other characters like Ivankov really are around out there. But it was just a great arc. I just liked it. And the fact that, you know, this was one of the fights that Luffy could not win at the end of the day. Magellan basically handed him his ass. So yeah, that was a great arc. But he makes it out of hell and manages to get to Marineford and fight for Ace. And that's when we find out about the history and everything. That's really where a lot of all the flashback stuff I just spent like 30 minutes talking about. That's when we find out a lot about this stuff during Marineford before the fighting gets started. That's when we have the flashbacks to Rouge and Ace and everything, and then Garp and all that stuff there. Now, at the beginning of this, even when the Whitebeard pirates showed up, Ace was like, guys, no, just, this is fine. If I have to die, that's fine. You guys need to go on and continue your story, so to speak. So he does that, but it doesn't account for it because Pops isn't having it, and he's like, we're gonna, you know, just sit tight, Ace, we're gonna get you out of there. And so a bunch of fighting happens while Ace is pretty much just up there, you know, looking down. And think about it this way, though. We don't really focus on Ace too much because, remember, Ace is like, you know, he's chained to a scaffold. You know, there's not much he can really do. But that entire time while he's up there, you know, while this fighting is going on, he can't move, right? And he's just sitting up there, staring at all of this bloodshed. He can't even really turn away. Just like, these are all the people, like there's Pops and all of the commanders and the Spade pirate crew that I was the captain of, and there's my little brother, and all the stuff they're doing to try to save me. Am I even worth it? And he's up there for, I don't know how long the Battle of Marineford lasted. How long would you say the actual battle lasted? Like, couple hours, if that, you know? But that's still, I mean, when all this shit's going on before you, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time just to sit here and watch. And so, it starts off with, maybe I should just die, and it ends with, maybe my life does have meaning. It actually reminds me of another scene with Garp, and I forgot to bring this up, but this is a perfect time to bring it up now. When Garp, was talking to Ace when he was a little kid, Ace asked him, should I have been born? That question, like, was I even should have been born? And Garp responds with basically like, that's a question that I can't answer. That's a question that you have to arrive to through living your life. But you're only going to find out the answer, though, if you live your life. You can't just give up now. So that's the answer he gave, and Ace eventually did get to that point. Luffy finally rescued him with the help of Mr. 3, freed him, got out of there, and Ace, erupts. That's actually the scene right here, the scene where Ace grabs Luffy and is like, damn it, Luffy, you're always running to be saved by your older brother, or whatever, and he starts up the fire pillar, and we're like, yes! Because think about that. Maybe you weren't reading One Piece at this point weekly, but I was. I started reading in the middle of Impel Down, but this was a moment where it was being built up for, years at this point, like, Ace about to be taken out, because the duel from Bonero Island, from Ace when he was captured by Blackbeard, and then all the way up to Marineford, that was several years of serialization there. So at that point, you're like, he's finally saved, he's finally rescued, they did it! Dun 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 da. Alright, we all know what happens here. Honestly, it's a combination of things. So first off, they're running away, they're getting out of there, and Akainu has to open his big mouth and be like, he has to shit-talk Whitebeard. And that's the one thing, once again, Ace just spent hours looking at this fight, all the stuff that Whitebeard's doing to save him. He's a real father figure, and then Akainu's gonna open his mouth and insult Whitebeard. Obviously, that's not gonna sit with Ace Boy here. But at the same time, it's like, Ace, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy, what's more important? The guy that's already your enemy is shit-talking your dad, or getting out of there and living to fight another day. But at that point, I think Ace had just had enough of it. He was tired of being chained up. He was tired of being talked down to and everything. And he's just like, screw this guy! I'm taking him out! So he turns back around and gets goaded into confronting Akainu. But really, that wasn't the thing that honestly took him out. That really spelled the doom for Ace. The thing that really took him out was the fact that Akainu was about to take out Luffy. That's the thing. He's like, you're first, son of dragon! And then Ace is like, no! And so, yeah, Ace probably, if they just kept running, and they might have probably gotten away if Ace didn't get goaded into Akainu, but he did, and that led the series of events, and that was like the point of no return. That was like locked in at that point. Luffy was about to get killed by Akainu, so once again, being the older brother, had to protect him, and because magma trumps fire, at least in the context of One Piece, because we've already talked about this, fire can in fact get hotter than magma, but okay, fine. Ace was still burnt and damaged and had a giant hole in his chest and fell and had his dying words to Luffy, like, I'm sorry, I couldn't have been a better brother, I'm sorry about Sabo and Dadan and everything, I hope that I was okay, I hope everything turned out okay. And then he dies. There's a lot of other anime I've seen over the years whenever a loved one passes away, like Dragon Ball Z is the example I think most people give. When Krillin is killed by Frieza, Goku goes into, like, rage mode. I'm glad Oda didn't do that with Luffy. I'm glad he didn't go with it like, Ace is dead, I'm gonna kill you. Like, same thing when Sasuke was killed in early Naruto, and Naruto goes into the Nine Tails and he attacks Haku or something. Like, Oda could have done that. I mean, he could have. He could have been like, Luffy goes rage mode and attacks Akainu. But it wouldn't have worked. I don't think it would have worked. I think Oda did it in a very realistic way, where it was like, okay, you just had your only brother killed in front of your eyes. You're not going to be able to take that very well. You're going to basically just shut down mentally after that. You're just going to be like... And so Luffy passes out, and then they have to, carry him out of there. And I think there was even a scene in the anime where, like, a doctor tries to save him before he dies, but yeah, okay, I don't have any doctor, can you give him some medicine? I can't cure a hole in the freaking chest! There's no medicine for that. This isn't Toriko where you could just splash some cure water on it and it'll like, I'm good, Luffy. That's not how this works, kid. I'm a doctor, not a freaking necromancer here. Call Dr. Orpheus. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, at this point, Ace is dead, and however, Shanks arrives, and it's a good thing because Shanks stops the war and they manage to get Whitebeard's body and Ace's body out of there, so they're not just like, you know, can you imagine what the Marines would have done with them? Oh god, like, given what the world, you know, oh, the world government would have freaking had an orgasm over that. They would have been like, oh, we got the bodies of Whitebeard, a Yonko, and Ace, the son of Roger. Oh man, they're already dead, sir. Oh, that won't stop us. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna taxidermy their bodies in the exact state of death, and we're going to defile them. We're just going to throw a bunch of still like graffiti all over them and everything, and just have them stand at the height of Marineford to show all the pirates of the world that we're boss, you know. And we're going to have like a public debasing day where every like once a year people will just come down the street and throw tomatoes at their freaking taxidermied bodies. That's the kind of messed up shit that the world government probably would have done. But Shanks shows up and they're like, no, we're taking their bodies, we're giving them a proper burial. So he does that. Sengoku agrees, and he's like, I'll accept the responsibility. So they do that, and Shanks and the red hair pirates give Ace and Whitebeard a proper burial on an island that's actually the homeland of Whitebeard. We find out later where they're buried. We still don't know the name of the island, but it's where Whitebeard grew up. And so it's a very nice grave, and you know, it has Ace's hat and his knife, which I don't believe we've ever seen him use his knife before in the series. Fire blade! That would have been a perfect opportunity, or, you know, something like that. But they put that there, and then Whitebeard's grave as well. They have the Bicento there, and then, yeah, and Sabo eventually goes there to pay respects to Ace, and that's why we like the first time we see Sabo in the anime, and I think that was actually the 3D2Y special we saw that at the end there. Now, Ace is dead, and he's not coming back. I've said this before when I did the reviews and everything, like, I don't think Oda's the kind of person that's going to do the whole ghost thing. You know, I know he's done, like, the zombie thing with Thriller Bark, but we're not going to do that. I mean, yeah, Moria is out there technically, but I don't think we're going to do anything like that. I also don't think we're going to do, like, the Jedi spirit shit where Ace comes down and, like, puts his hand on Luffy's shoulder, like, you did good, little brother. I don't think we're going to have anything like that. I think instead what Oda's going to do, in Wano right now especially, because we have the situation with Otama, and Ace met Otama when he was at Wano, and she wanted to join his crew, but Ace is like, you're like 4 years old, so when you grow up and become a true kunoichi, that's when we'll, you know, bring you on the crew. And so she was training her whole life to do that, and then Luffy shows up and has to give her the bad news that Ace is dead, and knocks her out from the trauma there. So great bedside manner there, Luffy, but, yeah, I think rather what that's going to do is Ace's spirit is going to be, like, I don't want to say avenged, but it's going to be, like, satiated. You know, Luffy's going to, like, fulfill a promise that Ace made, and he's going to do that to, like, carry on Ace's will. That's the best way I can describe it. That's the way you do this, instead of, like, having, like, him come back and, like, actually be overt with it. Like, I'm a ghost now, Luffy. I approve of what you did. No, it's going to be like, I'm going to carry on the spirit of Ace. That's what he's going to do. So Ace probably feels very protective of Otama right now, especially in the most recent chapter, if you know what happened there. Feels very protective of her. Is she going to join the Straw Hats? That's a whole other... Do we need a lolly on the Straw Hat crew? I don't think we do, but I think we definitely are going to have there's going to be a sit-down moment between Luffy and Tama, and they're going to discuss Ace, and that's going to go down there. And then, of course, you have the Marineford. That was a central point of the Dressrosa arc. You know, who's going to get the Marineford now? And then you have Sabo, who received it, so he's carrying on the will. So it's all very symbolic, the way that Oda's doing this. Ace is still, in a way, a central figure to the One Piece story, but just not in the physical way, not in like, here I am now, how you doing, guys, I'm a ghost, woo, but more in like, I'm gonna take the devil fruit that Ace had to carry on his will, and Luffy's like, I'm gonna take care of this girl and make sure nothing bad happens to her because of you, Ace, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it's done in a way that's like how you do it in real life whenever you lose a loved one, you know? You know they're not coming back, So the best you could really do is carry on their legacy in some way, in some form. I have an example from my own life, and if you feel comfortable sharing it below, you can with you as well. You don't have to, of course, because I know this is a very, this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people if you're talking about the death of a loved one. But here, I have a little box here. My grandfather, Richard Crawford, died in 2013. He had lung cancer. He was 78 years old. And he collected coins. That was one of his hobbies, collecting rare coins. And he didn't have a huge coin collection, nothing ridiculously rare. We got a 1930 Buffalo nickel here. This is from 1905. I think there's a Buffalo nickel from like 1892 in here somewhere. A bunch of gold dollars and all that stuff. But he left that to me. He left that to me. And I've been slowly adding to it over the years. Whenever I find a strange coin or something, I'll put it in here. And just every time I do that, I'm kind of like remembering, my grandfather. Actually, I have a picture of him right here if you want to see that. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it too well. I'll scan it in if you can't see it. But no, that's decent. Yeah, that's me when I was a baby, and that's my grandfather. So, yeah. That's what he left me, and I keep that. And whenever I find a rare coin, I put that in there and just, carry on his legacy, carry on his memory. That's the best you can do. That's probably the best way to end this, carrying on the legacy of Ace. So thanks for watching, everybody. This video is probably a long time coming because I talked about Ace so much, but it's finally good to get all this stuff out here and talk about him in a very general sense from start to finish. My entire room smells like pumpkin right now because I have this pumpkin candle over here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This will be Tekking101 signing out. And once again, if you want this awesome Ace hoodie that I'm wearing, the link is in the description below. They have a bunch of other anime hoodies. I have an Attack on Titan one. I have a bunch of My Hero Academia ones. So yeah, go check it out. Tekking101 signing out. Yep. And that's the whole thing. All right, I'll stop.